What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? We back again with another great topic. When your peace is challenged. Man, I'm loving this topic right here, man.
Yeah, man, it's a different one.
Most definitely. But in partnership with WYTV7 Christian Broadcasting Network, this is When Men Open Up, a show where we are redefining manhood through transparency. My name is Dominique.
And I'm Dexter.
And once again, our topic for today is when your peace is challenged. Now, last week, the previous week, the topic was what?
We talked about peace as your compass.
Peace as your compass. So we basically just talking about how we use peace to help guide us in the direction that we should go in.
Yeah.
And we also went in some other directions with what peace meant to us and so forth.
Exactly.
And the importance of it, and the importance of guarding our peace and really being protective of our peace and doing whatever it takes in order for us to have that peace.
Indeed.
But to make sure, because we want to make sure everyone is on the same page, what do we mean by peace? And we're going to define it one more time. And basically, when we say peace, we want everyone to understand that it doesn't mean that everything in your life is going smooth.
Yeah.
Right. But when it comes down to the peace, just think of it as a storm. You know, you're finding that calmness within the storm. You're finding that peace is that lack of disturbance in your life and so forth. So it doesn't necessarily mean everything in your life is going well. Yeah,
definitely. And I think because it's easy, we've been doing this for, a little over 2 months now. And I think it's easy to assume that everybody who's, listening has been with us on this whole journey. But it does beg to be said that, we're believers, we're men of God. And so when I say peace, I'm really speaking about the peace that we get from Jesus Christ, from our Lord and Savior. And so he says that, I'll give you a peace, which surpasses all understanding. And so that's the peace in which I'm referencing when I say, the peace that keeps you even in difficult times, when you really know what it is to settle in that peace. You want to maintain that. And so I know that can be a little confusing. We both heard accounts of people maybe who maybe have attempted suicide, and they spoke of feeling really tranquil, prior, or really, resolved and settled on their decision. And, there's been accounts of people who've actually survived those attempts who said, what, the moment I went through with my decision, I regretted it. And so I don't want us to be, confused in this subject matter when we're talking about that. So yeah, definitely. So we're once again, we're on the same sheet of music. We're talking about the peace. Once again, the peace, that defies logic. When everyone says that you should feel a certain type of way, you have the ability to really buckle down in that inner knowing.
Right.
And once again, that inner knowing that God provides to you.
Most definitely. And another thing to add on to that, I'm glad you clarified that, is, when it comes down to peace, it's that lack of worrying.
Yeah.
It's that lack of uncertainty. It's that
Definitely.
lack of chaos, confusion. It's that lack of those things that's influencing extra stress or the bad stress in our life, because all stress is not bad.
True.
But it's those things that's really increasing the extra stress in our lives. But what do we do when we're challenged? That's the question for today.
Yes.
And I really do believe on a regular basis there's something or someone that's challenging our peace in some form or fashion.
Yeah.
But the question is, how do we respond to that? How do we react to that? And we're gonna get into that. So let's go ahead and get into and dive in.
Let's do it.
When your peace is challenged, help me out, man. Like, I'm trying my best to have a peaceful life.
Yes.
And have some peace in my life when there's already enough chaos going on in my life. When something or someone is challenging my peace, what do I need to be doing?
Well, first thing first, when we decided to do a part 2 on this, my mind went to a scripture. I believe it's in Isaiah. It says that I will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on me because he trusts me. And what that boils down to is, what is the center of your focus? What is the root of your focus? whatever the root of your focus, it has the ability to steer you in that direction. And so when our peace is challenged, what we find is a distraction. Is your distraction greater than what you had your focus on?
Yeah.
Because now if you begin to focus on the distraction, it has the ability to pull you in its direction. And so a lot of times when we experience the chaos, the drama, the issues, what they're doing is they're inviting us to assume the same mentality that they're having. And it's up to you in that moment to say, you know what, either A, I'm going to take this on, or B, I'm going to maintain the posture that I have. And in this posture, I want to invite you to look at your situation the same way that maybe I'm looking at it, from a peaceful place.
Most definitely.
Because if you look at it from a place of chaos, from a chaotic mindset, your natural tendency is to respond in accordance to what the environment says.
That's good, man. I'm so glad that, and I'm going to add on to that as well. I'm so glad that I served, and I think I told this story before. I'm so glad I served time in the military because, you know, there's so much training that's involved in it. And, you know, basically work is training. You know, that's basically what it is on a day-to-day basis. And despite all the training, you know, if you're in a situation and you lose composure, you lose everything that you've been training.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So you could have 20 years in service, but as soon as you lose composure, it's as if you just got in. It's as if you just got out of basic training, out of boot camp. And I had to really understand, you know, during that time in basic training, how important it is to maintain your composure.
Yeah.
Because when you lose that composure, you're going to also lose that focus as well.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Because now we at that chaotic mindset. Now we're at that panic stage. And when we at that panic stage, the thing is, our mind, it disrupts the way our mind is supposed to be operating. Yeah. And we're really responding based upon emotion rather than really just logic, rather than what we learn, what we have been learning for the regular for all that time we've been in service. But to add on to that, I think sometimes what we have to really consider in those particular situations is, do I need to enforce a boundary?
Yes.
Or do I need to break down a barrier? You get what I'm saying?
I do.
To maintain that peace, do I need to enforce a boundary?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it might be as simple as me just saying, no, not today. You get what I'm saying? Someone is trying to take me there, and I just make the decision. A simple decision, sometimes it is. If we really think about it, sometimes it is a simple decision for me to tell myself, you know what, or even that person, no, not today. Sometimes, for an example, there's many examples. If I'm trying, what we'll do when it comes down to making connections with people, sometimes it's so difficult to make connections with people based upon a barrier that we have set up, whether we're conscious of it or we're not. So what we tend to do, we tend to have an initial view of someone or perspective of someone. It may be negative before I even get to know where you're from, brother. You know what I'm saying? But because I have this, I automatically set up this negative view of you, that's going to cause some disruption in our connection. Yeah. So my first question is, and it's kind of getting into my number 2 as well. My first question to you is, do you need to enforce a boundary or do you need to break down a barrier?
I mean, that's good. You know, and I think one of the things that I would say in reference to that, one of the things I learned once upon a time, and I got checked on it myself, is that just because it's an emergency to you doesn't make it one to me. Man. And so and so, you know, when we're enforcing boundaries,
and they'll catch a fit too.
Yeah, when you're enforcing a boundary, the reality is that you have to distinguish, you know, what does this really mean to me? You know, because, you know, you're acting in a certain kind of way. I don't want to act that way, you know, and maybe right now it's not the most pressing thing for me, you know. you're bringing all of this stuff to me, and you're not really sensitive to what it is that I'm having to deal with right now. And so I have to prioritize those things, And so when it comes to safeguarding your peace, or when your peace is challenged, I love the fact that you have to reinforce boundaries, or you have to tear down. What was the other one you said? Tear down
a barrier,
or tear down a barrier. You have to identify what it is. And let's be honest. Oftentimes we try to put the cape on and be superhero in times when it's not necessary.
Right.
One of the things that, and I'm sure a few people who may hear this, they're going to say, hey, he's talking about me. So I'm not going to say any names, I promise. But one of the things that I've shared with a few people is that, people keep coming to you with their hair on fire because you always respond. I said, but the reality is that let you be out the picture. Guess what? They're going to find someone else to bring that same type of energy to. Whoever responds in the fashion that they want them to respond, they now become that person. And so we have to be careful, with how we entertain the actions of other people.
Most definitely, man. And I want to stay on the understanding, because it's so important, because we can be so lazy at times, and we'll be we're just laughing at what we just saw, but we'll be lazy towards certain situations. So what I'm saying is, sometimes we'll see conflicts and somebody will say, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time talking to that person because I already know what the outcome is going to be. And in some cases, they may know that it's really no point in me really actually talking to that person. And these are several examples, people. But what we're doing is we're not taking out time to actually understand what it really is. What I really had to find out is, when there is a lack of peace, usually there's a lack of understanding.
Yeah.
When there's a lack of peace, usually there's a lack of understanding. And when there's conflict, usually there's a lack of understanding. There's a miscommunication. Someone says something wrong, or someone tried to verbalize something and they probably said it wrong and you took it the wrong way. And some people just have a hard time really explaining themselves or really expressing themselves. So we don't take time out to actually understand what is really going on, what is really influencing, seriously, what is actually influencing this disturbance.
Oh, man.
What is really causing this disturbance. And that's going to really help guide you to understand, okay, these are necessary steps that I need to take in order to create this peace, because we do have the power and the ability to create peace. Whether we have to go to the actual situation, or confront the person, confront the situation, or it may be time for us to actually avoid that situation. Sometimes there's a calmness in the storm, and sometimes that storm is telling you, bro, you need to go the other way.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying?
I love how you said that, and one of the things I think that we lose sight of is that there is a responsibility incumbent upon us to maintain the peace.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to become the peace, essentially, is what I'm saying. And what I mean by that is that if your environment is challenged, you have to do what's necessary to bring that order back again. You mentioned the disturbance, and prior to you saying that, I was thinking about maybe the lake, and how somebody throws a rock in the lake and you have all of those ripples. The ripples are symbolic of a disturbance. There was something that was introduced that changed the dynamic of that still pond. And so the person who cast the stone did it to see the ripples. And so once again, when somebody's introducing that dynamic to you, you're responsible for readjusting and getting back to the place that you want to maintain. We do ourselves such a tremendous disservice by always reacting instead of regulating, if that makes sense.
Right.
We're very reactive when we should really be more focused on maintenance. This is what I'm going to have. You know what I'm saying? And one of the awesome things is I think that once you become known for that, two things are going to happen. People are going to want you to either bring it to them, or they're not going to bring the drama to you. You get what I'm saying?
Man,
they're going to ask you, okay, how do you handle this? And, give me some understanding of how I can do it in my own situation. Or B, they're just going to stop bringing the drama to you because you place such a premium on maintaining the peace.
But there's folks, they're called mediators.
Yeah.
They get paid to do that. They're skilled at actually doing that. That's so good. And they understand that in these meetings or in these events, in these situations, we need a mediator that's going to keep us on track. You get what I'm saying? When there's a conflict or something stirring up, that's that person that you can rely on, because that's his responsibility, and not just his responsibility, because we all have responsibility. Doesn't mean we're actually skilled at it. You get what I'm saying? But he's skilled at actually doing it. He's skilled at, you know what? I'm seeing the ripples in the lake. Let me go ahead and calm this lake. You know what? Okay, we getting off track in this area. Let me get y'all back on track where y'all supposed to be. This is what y'all was talking about in the beginning. Let's get back on here. But I want to get back to what I hear a lot, and especially when it comes down to entrepreneurship. One of the things that we always say is, if you're going through the storm, keep going through it. Keep going through it. And in some cases, they're correct, because when you're pursuing something like that, it's going to require so much energy, so much time, so much resources, dealing with people, things not going your way, losing out on things. The list goes on and on and on. And in some cases, that is necessary. But I think now the culture is almost as if that's something you're supposed to always just accept in our lives. And I just want to challenge that. Since we talk about challenge when your piece is challenged, I want to challenge that narrative and really going into really understanding what that storm is about. You get what I'm saying? Because there's some storms that we're going through, we shouldn't have to go through it.
Exactly.
There's some storms that we're just not designed to actually experience in our lives. And I just want people to understand that you're not safeguarding your peace in those moments. You get what I'm saying? You're always going through these financial hardships, and you just saying, you know what, this is a rough patch. No, you're not budgeting. You get what I'm saying? You're not really doing what you're supposed to be doing. So I really want us to understand and really ask ourselves again, do I need to confront this? Do I need to continue going through the storm, or do I need to remove myself from the storm? It's just like seeing a tornado. If we're driving, we see a tornado hit down, man, we're going the other way. You get what I'm saying? Because we know that's something that we ain't supposed to be going through.
But I do want to say this, because let's be honest, life has its difficulties. There are seasons. I think one of the next times I preach, I'm going to talk about this. But there are seasons, and it's okay to recognize the season that you're in. And so there are seasons where life is difficult. I think that the key point that I want to bring home in this regards is that when you find yourself in the storm, what vantage point are you taking within the storm?
Exactly.
Last week we talked about the eye of the storm, and they always say that the eye of the storm is normally calm, and so are you amongst the upheaval where everything is getting thrown around and the wind and all of that, or are you actually in the center of the storm, the eye itself? Same storm, but different vantage point, different perspective. There have been seasons in my life that were very difficult. And when I focus on, when it seemed like all I could focus on was the difficulty and all of the chaos, it just seemed like it was more compounded. But when I started to look at it a little differently and say, okay, well, maybe the financial stuff is, the lesson to learn is, okay, maybe balance your budget, do a better job with your budget, and maybe cut back a little.
Right.
And then once I came out the storm, I'm like, well, now I have a better appreciation for managing my finances, and now I know how to be more content with less. And so really, it was the perspective. Same difficulty, didn't like it at all. But the truth of the matter is that once I started to look at things differently, I was able to calm myself in the situation. And so when you find yourself in those storms, those trials of life, I want you to remember this, what perspective are you taking in the situation? Because it never fails. When you focus on the negative, it seems like more of the negative seems to come to you, or at least it becomes more in your face and more direct,
Most definitely. And I like that. There is blessing in the storm.
Mm-hmm.
You can find a blessing in the storm. You can find a lesson within the storm. And if we do, really go through that reflection phase, I think we can really find out, okay, what is this storm? What is this situation really teaching me? What can I really gain from this? And that's really good as well. And man, I'm really enjoying this topic right here, bro, because when it comes down to, because we really want people to really just go through the process of really understanding how are you really being challenged. Yeah. And you really understand how you're really being challenged. That's gonna really guide you and really help you understand how you're supposed to really react in that situation. So we really want folks to really understand that peace is something that you should always own. Don't put your peace in other people's hands. Take ownership, take accountability of that peace.
Yeah, and I would, if our good friend Dr. Michael Perry, who I know is watching, but if he was here, I would, ask him to elaborate on the flight or fight mechanism, that we all have. And I think the thing about the flight or fight is that a lot of our senses shut down for the sake of self-preservation. I think a lot of us go through life operating in the flight or flight. And the danger of that is, at least for me, is that I can't think fully coherently and logically if I'm always, anxious. And so that's the necessity of safeguarding your peace. I'm more creative when I'm peaceful. I like to stop and smell the roses per se, when I'm peaceful. And so I notice that when I'm feeling some anxiety, when I'm feeling kind of out of whack, I need to do an examination of what's going on in myself, because here's the danger. If I don't check it, I'm going to find myself off track later. And the time that it's going to take me to get back on track may take longer to get back on track if I had just went ahead and addressed the issue when I first noticed it. And so I'm almost crossing the threshold of 40. And so, as I get closer, I'm telling you, I'm more conscious about maintaining a peaceful environment. Yeah. Truth be told, a lot of drama, I deal with it, but I don't entertain it as often. I deal with it because, I'm in the profession, in the business of helping people. But as far as my own personal life, I just really try not to entertain it. We'll address it and we move on. And so, it's my hope that you all really find a place where you can really understand what it means to maintain your peace, because it's a beautiful thing. It'll give you clarity in situations and in times where everything around you says you shouldn't be clear.
Most definitely. And this is my last quick point, and even referencing what you had said, and it doesn't have to just be your own personal peace, the peace within you. It can even be the peace that's any disturbance that's surrounding you as well. It may not be disturbing you per se, but we do have that power to create peace. Yes. But once again, like Dex said, we not heroes. So that doesn't mean every time we seeing something we have to go in and save the day. Really ask yourself, is this something that's really appropriate for me to go into and really help and really, create some peace in this area. And it's really helped me and held me accountable in certain environments as well. And just ask myself, Dominique, you know what? In some of these situations, you didn't have to just sit there. You know what I'm saying?
Man,
in some of these situations, you know what, Dominique, you probably could have brought this to their attention. You probably could have said X, Y, and Z, and it probably would have been some understanding that in that situation. So it holds me accountable too, not just to be selfish, just about my own peace, but the peace that's surrounding me as well.
You know, I'm glad you said that, and I'll make this my last point. We're familiar with the text, and I believe you brought this up last week about the peacemakers. You know, blessed are the peacemakers. You know, and I think sometimes when we see that, we're thinking about maybe some kind of physical conflict. You can be the peacemaker when you notice chaos. You know, because you understand what peace is. You now become the solution in that situation. And so, you know, as you begin to live this lifestyle, it's my hope that you will now. You know how to carry it on into the environments that you've been called to serve. You know, I think a lot of times we just say, well, that's not my issue.
Yes.
But the truth is that, you know, and I'm not talking about the cape thing, but I am just presenting that there are times where it's incumbent upon you to respond and to offer the peace in that environment. You know, some people have been really looking for what you have. You know, people go through life in need of assistance, and you know, we do society a disservice by not being a helping hand in that situation.
Most definitely, man. This is probably my favorite series that we done went through. I'm not sure about the listeners' opinions. Our thoughts is not really too important. It's all about our listeners. But I really hope everyone been really gaining something from this, and we've really been enjoying this. So if you have been enjoying this, please give us some feedback via Instagram, Facebook. Email us whenmenopenup@gmail.com. Give us some feedback, even some questions, because we've been posting questions. Your question may just be a topic, and keep in mind that every question is anonymous that we post. We won't tell anybody who it is, and you know, you may want some feedback from the masses. You may want some feedback from us. You may want us to just allow that to be a topic.
Definitely.
So that is an option on the table. And you know, our following has grown. We're on iHeartMedia now. You know, and if you have any products or services that you want to promote or advertise on our show, you have that option as well. All you have to do is inbox us on Facebook, or you can email us at whenmenopenup@gmail.com. But we are out. My name is Dominique.
And I'm Dexter. And once again, we just want to say thank you all for joining us on this night. Please feel free to share this video with those who are in your networks. And we are on a mission to help, you know, and to help people address issues that they often suffer with in silence.
Yes.
And so that's our aim. But it's been good, my brother.
This is When Men Open Up, where we are redefining manhood through transparency. And we are out. Thank you so much.